I'll begin. So thank you all for joining me this morning. The purpose of this session is to just talk about the Alt MBA, the experience I took from the program and the journey, and then also sharing with how you may be able to benefit from it and the steps to take to start. So we'll start. Yes. Okay, so part one, why? What's it for? So being a first-time business owner, I'm doing a lot of things for the first time. I'm not talking about doing the work, all the technical stuff that comes with starting an accounting business, but it's all the other stuff that comes with being an entrepreneur or a business owner. So I'm talking about marketing, sales, writing, coaching, leadership, having challenging conversations with people, negotiating, product development. The list is literally endless. And that's the danger, because it's easy to lose focus on what's important. You see, the executive/entrepreneur needs to be a generalist. They need to have a grasp of varying concepts and models. And with juggling so many things on your plate, it's easy to run around and be busy, but not necessarily be effective. Personally, one of my anxieties is that I'm constantly worried that I get caught up in this cycle of busy without actually making any meaningful progress. Not growing is my biggest fear. So rolling into the second year of startup life in our business, this anxiety was really creeping in. As our business grows, my role as a leader has forcibly kicked up a notch. The network is expanding, and I need to ensure that my personal growth matches and surpasses the pace of the growth of the business. And what that means to me is I need to be doing more uncomfortable things and really truly push myself to understand and see what's possible. And that's one of the reasons why I signed up to Seth Godin's Alt MBA. I thought it would be a program that would give me the kick up the bum, and one that I needed at this phase of my life and business. And I'm really glad to tell you and share with you that that's exactly what it was for me. So to give you some context, Seth Godin's Alt MBA is a glimpse into the future of education. And I'm truly blessed to be one of its recent graduates. There aren't many of us. There's probably no less than 1,200 graduates globally. So Seth started the Alt MBA because he believes the education system is broken. He spoke about it recently in a podcast and basically stated, traditional education is hand-built, local, completely custom, really expensive, and has uneven access. Great teachers are in short supply, and bureaucracies enforce compliance rather than the actual learning. Most people I know who have embarked on the traditional MBA route at university have done it for reasons more than education and self-learning. They did it for a pay rise, a job promotion, or even the ego or privilege of adding three letters to your title. But ultimately, is that what education is really about? I think we're groomed from such a young age to, go through this prescribed learning of high school, primary school, then university, just to get those certificates so we can feel like we're progressing in life. But what I wanted was, what the world needs is an alternative, something that we subscribe to and enable us to think differently and actually genuinely level up as humans. So when Coursera and Udemy and all these online education platforms came out, really the goal was to solve that problem, open out, distribute and democratize education for the world so that people could take these courses and truly learn. But unfortunately, the completion rate for those online courses is only 2 or 3%. I'll put my hand up and say I'm guilty of being one of those participants. I signed up for a Udemy course probably 6 months ago and didn't get past the first week. So when I learned that the Alt MBA has a completion rate of 96%, that was astounding. And I thought, wow, it's something that must be truly remarkable and worth embarking on. What to expect? Going into this course, I literally had no idea what to expect. They don't let you in on the content, and they're quite vague about the structure as well. The only glimpse into the course was the recommended readings they shipped us in the form of books, just 3 or 4 weeks before the start date. They're the books they sent us. So by looking at the titles, and if you've had a chance to read any of them, I think it will give you a glimpse of what. So to give you a quick rundown of the structure of the course, it's basically split into 4 different time zones, and each time zone has a cohort of people between. Each week you're put into teams of 4 to 5 within that time zone, and you're given 3 assignments to complete per week. It's purely online. So you collaborate with team members using Zoom, this tool, and Slack, and you ship the projects on a private WordPress site where you publish live blogs. Over the 4 weeks, you're required to complete 13 projects. This webinar is in fact my final project. Submit 5 peer reviews, being very generous with your feedback and helping people improve and reflect from their work. And then post feedback from other peers and coaches, you write a reflective script, covering what you learned from the process and from the feedback and the comments from your peers. I must tell you, the content and the structure is intense and challenging, both from a time, but more so an emotional perspective. There are no shortcuts or covers to hide underneath. You need to be brave, suck it up, and just do the work. What I've learned. So I can honestly say that I don't talk about many things, and I don't brag about or boast about many products I use, but this is the one thing I tell everyone that they must explore or do. It's probably the best $3,000 I've ever spent in my life. The program really 10x my expectations. I genuinely feel like I've leveled up. This is what I've learned. We're all irrational. So humans act in ways that are contrary to logic. It's easy for us to look at other people and say that the behavior is irrational. So what are some examples of that? So why the hell do people waste money on lottery tickets when they know the odds are considerably against their favor? Why the hell would anyone vote for Trump? He is clearly insane. So we may never understand why people think like this, and sometimes it's a fruitless exercise. Rather than pointing out the lack of logic, scratching our heads and trying to understand why they don't behave in ways that are obviously beneficial from our point of view, we're better off just embracing the way things are and learn how to work with these quirks instead. Everyone has a different worldview, which results in irrational behavior. Their narrative, or their story, has been formed by their upbringing, their values, their social circles, the media, advertising, the list goes on. And really smart and clever marketers exploit these foibles, using empathy as a key ingredient to that. If we take time to listen, understand, and see the world through the eyes of our intended audience, we can basically shape our message and speak the same language, allowing them to see our perspective. Empathy is everything. So you want to change the world? Start with empathy. Now, this may be obvious to people, but certainly wasn't obvious to me. I am an accountant after all. We are not known to be people. I'm not always great at offering generosity of spirit to others. I generally just accept people's point of view / perspective, but don't leap to understand why they think like that. I see and just accept. It's not that I don't care or I'm not human. It's just that I can't be asked understanding why they think like that sometimes. Like it just consumes mental energy to put yourself in someone else's position and deeply empathize with their situation. What I realized was I was doing it completely wrong. So the Alt MBA has helped me become more aware of my empathy or lack thereof. I have a lot more work to do. However, I am already seeing a difference in my day-to-day. I'm learning to ask better questions and not just listen to the answers, but actually be acutely aware of the choice of words being used, the subtle movements of voice, and the facial expression. I think previously I would pull my hair out and think in my brain, why the hell are you so stupid? That's completely the wrong choice, and why would you make a decision like that? But now instead of just tearing my hair out, I find myself taking the time to transport myself into their world, to understand why they did, or more commonly, did not make what I consider the obvious choice. I have to say the results so far have been remarkable, and I practice this literally every day. The third key takeaway is just ship. So I'm not a perfectionist, and I am proud of the work I do ship, but actually what gets sent is only probably 5% of the work that is. I have an enormous library of unfinished work that is saved as draft. That was the old habit. To finish something 9% of the way and leave it to be picked up another day. I feel inspired or motivated to complete it. The Alt MBA has helped me eliminate my fear of imposter syndrome and lizard brain thinking of waiting for inspiration to strike. What I've learned is that 80% is okay. I think coming from a technical background and particularly in accounting, we're forced to look at numbers and make sure they're 100% accurate because they might get checked or reviewed or audited. But when it comes to creative projects and presenting assertions and ideas, it's okay not to be 100% perfect. You're allowed to do things almost there because a lot of your ideas that you present will change. And the process allows you to have your mind change and people to give feedback, hopefully, in a constructive way. So what I've learned is if I don't ship now, it's basically never. What I've gained. So in addition to the principles I've learned throughout the course, I've learned a lot about myself. I surprised myself with the quality and the output of the work I achieved while balancing the other pillars of my life: business, relationships. I unearthed a new level of productivity which I didn't realize existed. One of the key takeaways is to actively practice charity. Now, I'm not talking about generosity from a charity sense, like, doing more door knocking or giving to the Cancer Foundation. But I mean just day-to-day generosity with people. Spend the time to provide meaningful and constructive feedback to others. Help them improve and recognize good work and deeds when you see it. Actively look for those opportunities to identify great work and thank them for it. Congratulate on it, and you'd be surprised at the difference it has to their day, but also yours. So of everything I've learned and gained, the most valuable thing I can take away from the Alt MBA is the community. I'm joined by a couple of my fellow alumni in this call. I'm super pumped and happy that they're here to join me on this. The community I join is a diverse group of professional, ambitious, and talented motherfuckers. I can honestly say that. They're in the change-making business, and I'm proud to be part of that clan. I've gained lifelong friends that will hold me accountable to my promises and push me harder than I ever could on my own. It's your turn. So what I'm going to do now is open up this call to basically have a Q&A session about the course itself, any other questions, content, learnings, whatever they might be. Feel free to just go nuts. I just need to work out how I do this. Okay, I don't know actually how to do it. Yeah, so you can write. Yeah, okay, there's a Q&A section on Zoom, so you can just go on this. All right, enter live. What's happening this? Okay, first question from Sholto. So how do I balance your work commitments, take time off? Yeah, really good question. So I am really blessed to have a pretty solid team behind me that helped me, support me through the time constraints. So to give you context, the group projects involve were all set to US time zones, and often a lot of them were due 6 p.m. Eastern Australian time. So between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m., I was kind of out of action from a business perspective. So I lent on my team a lot to pick up the slack. And yeah, to be honest, I met a lot of other students, other Australian alumni who actually took time off work, whether they had a whole month of annual leave. Met one guy who's actually traveling through China at the moment. He took a sabbatical from work and was just traveling China, doing some backpacking as well as doing this. So it's a pretty cool experience. Hey, Kim. Hey, Jay, you say the work course is intense. What time is required for each assignment each week? Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thanks, Kim. So to give you an idea, I was probably dedicating 4 to 6 hours a day on the work. Sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. I think that you need to really dedicate the time to do it. The time per assignment varies as well. So I think the longest assignment probably took 15 hours to do. And that's not, there's timing and there's group collaboration involved in that. But I think it's not just the time, but it's just the emotional labor you put into it. It really, because you're testing yourself a lot, you're exploring different areas of your experiences in your life. You know, it's more the emotional labor you're putting as opposed to the time. So I was sleeping like a baby every night, but found myself also waking up at 3 a.m. every morning with sparks of creativity, or like, oh shit, I didn't say that, or I should say this next time, or reflective script. So I think it's probably more the emotional labor most of the time, commitment, which is intense. Okay, Sholto's back. What was the most effective learning technique from the course? That was a great question. There's a principle, so I think Seth mentioned, and I can't remember the name, but it's basically, I think Tim Ferriss refers to it as well, but there's this, you know, as an executive or an entrepreneur, you're not expected to know everything. But if you can practice this skill of selectively acquiring knowledge at the time you need it most, I think it's called like just-in-time knowledge. So if I'm going into a negotiation, for example, I'll read up on, you know, blogs or videos on how I need to prepare myself mentally for that conversation. So I think what I found is you learn the art of learning, or the practice of learning, when you need it, as opposed to learning the content itself. I hope that answers your question. Ronnie, what feedback have you received from others in your life as a result of the Alt MBA? What have they noticed about you? That is a really great question. I don't think I've explicitly been provided feedback about how I've changed, or if I have. I feel like I have, but yeah, that's a great question. I don't think I've been explicitly given any feedback that I can think of. Rowan, I know you're listening. Maybe you can share some thoughts out of this session. Cool. Are there any other questions, comments? Here we go, Sholto. How will you practically implement what you have learned in your business? Really, really great question. Every meeting or every situation that I'm coming across, I'm actually creating space to think about the other person's point of view. I'm trying to ask myself why someone made that decision, as opposed to just accepting it. And, you know, whilst I probably haven't seen the end result of those, I've had a few conversations over the last couple of weeks that have kind of danced around this issue. And whilst I haven't seen the direct result of the outcomes of those yet, I think the practice of, you know, trying to get into their situation has really helped me. So I really practice them. I try to practice them on a day-to-day basis. Generosity. So I've actually got a sticky note on my desk, which reminds me of being a good finder. So there's 3 things. So one of the assignments that we had was practice being a good finder, and it's a lifelong project. where basically your goal is to seek out 3 good things that you see in that day. And those things could be as simple as someone holding the door for someone, or someone, giving their seat up to in the bus to someone that needs it. So really, it could be trivial, it could be really important, it could be anything. But, practicing the art of actively giving constructive and positive feedback to people is a skill, or is a tactic that I'm trying to implement day to day. I think it's really easy for us to be very negative about everything, with what's going on in the world at the moment, the politics, the terrorism, and even just day-to-day struggles. We tend to always dwell on negative things, and all you hear in the press is very negative. But, it's rare sometimes to see those bright moments. And if you can create those experiences out of nothing for yourself and for other people, I think we'll all be better off as people. Okay, Bronny. Oh, okay, I think that's wrong. My question, are there any tips on models for creativity? Yeah, so there's a really awesome book, which I've got and I'll lend it to you, called The Beautiful Constraint. So the principle of the book is to look at, there's possibilities in every challenge or situation. And what you need to ask yourself is, instead of saying that things are impossible or they can't be done, it's really reframing the question and asking yourself, we can if we do da 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 da. So there's a whole mental model which is still on paper, which goes through even just asking different questions about challenges or scenarios, which push you to think completely out of the box and differently about scenarios. So an example, which is what I found the most interesting example from the book, was Mario. So everyone knows Mario, the computer game character, Mario and Luigi. So everyone, when Nintendo or the first developers, invented that character, you ask yourself, why the hell is he some Italian dude? Like, why an Italian hero? And so what I learned was, back in the days when they were creating video games, the bit levels were so large. So, for example, trying to create a character using digital bits, you couldn't create the detail for the hair, the nose, the face, because the technology just didn't exist. So the Mario cartoon was actually invented just because of the constraints of technology. So what they did, they had a big block for his nose, they had a couple of blocks for his mustache, they had a few blocks for his red hat, and it turned out that character that they invented out of minimal blocks turned out to look like an Italian guy that throws fireballs. So just through that constraint, this iconic cartoon character was invented. And it goes to show the power of constraints in situations and how they can push you to be more creative. Charlotte, would you put your staff through the course, or just business owners? If not, will you teach your staff the principles? Yeah, this is a really great question. So one of the things I haven't done yet, and some of my agenda, is actually share my learnings with the team, because it is something that I believe everyone should do or explore. However, it's a program that you need to want to do. So there could be, what the wrong answer is to make this a very mandatory, workplace education, culture building exercise for your employees where they're forced to do it. I think we're very much used to that growing up in corporate land. This is not for that. You really need to believe in the content and the cadence and genuinely want to improve as a human to really get the full value of this. Because you do get pushed hard, and it is easy to opt out. We had a few people opt out for various reasons, but you don't only let yourself down, but you let the community down as well if you don't push through. So I believe it's not just for business owners, it's for professionals or anyone that genuinely wants to improve as a person, and to an extent has some leverage to be able to, some maturity as well, to have enormous amount of self-awareness and be able to want to do it. If not, how will you teach your staff the principles? So 2 parts to that question. Yeah, the principles. Great, another great question. So what principles will I share with them? I think that the whole good finder generosity thing is absolutely a principle that I will share with everyone. It's actively seeking out those opportunities to give great feedback and be very generous with your time. The other principle is, I guess this sounds cliche, but having a more open mind. So in day-to-day scenarios where we're presented with challenges or you feel crap about a situation, pause and reflect and explore how you can overcome it and just move on. I think we dwell so much negativity and why something didn't go in our favor, but the reality is that decision could be made for many, many different reasons, but that's okay. Let's just not dwell on it. Let's just move on and continue. Mate, Mario throws fireballs. When he's got the flame level up thing? Anyway. So are there any other questions? Well, I've got everyone here. Awesome. Cool. Of course. So well, I've got you all. So if you're interested in exploring the Alt MBA, jump on the website. There is an application form where they ask a few basic questions. And yeah, have a crack. If by all means, if you want to learn more about it or you want to catch up for coffee, please don't hesitate to reach out and we can chat about it in more detail. Great. All right, I think we're done. So I'd just like to thank you for joining and yeah, we'll hopefully speak soon. Okay, bye.